Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvare Vishubhanu Siti Devi Purnamami Adi Priye Vacha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mare Kabando Matsangin, Madguru Manmadana, Madnistara Kamad Bhagya, Madananda Namostate. Asaru Saru Tadayanatini Chotatakara. Anamuncha Kadachin Mam Premno Hitkatayos Puraha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mandirai. Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhakti Naishtaki. Hare Krishna, beloved Vaishnavis. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Creative Impetus, Chapter 4, the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We'll do the chapter introduction and the verse 1. Mridanga, that kirtan must have been so ecstatic because your Sika is standing just straight up.
Yeah.
Directly up. Wow. So, yeah, we're starting the chapter today. We're going to be introduced into Lord Rishabdev. He's one of my favorite incarnations, as being one of the most far out incarnations. So much so that when I first read about Rishabdev, I had to go knock on Lalita's door and was like, look at this.
Listen to this.
Quite amazing. Okay, chapter introduction by Srila Prabhupada. In this chapter, Rishabdev, the son of Maharaj Nabi, begot 100 sons, and during the reign of those sons, the world was very happy in all respects. When Rishabdev appeared as the son of Maharaj Nabi, he was appreciated by the people as the most exalted and beautiful personality of that age. His poise, influence, strength, enthusiasm, bodily luster, and other transcendental qualities were beyond compare. The word Rishab refers to the best or the supreme. Due to the super excellent attributes of the son of Maharaj Nabi, the king named his son Rishab, or the best. His influence was incomparable. Although there was a scarcity of rain, Rishabdev did not care for Indra, the king of heaven, who was in charge of supplying rain. Through his own potency, Rishabdev sumptuously covered Ajanaba with ample rain. Upon receiving Rishabdev, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, as his son, King Nabi began to raise him very carefully. After that, he entrusted the ruling power to him, and retiring from family life, lived at Badrik Ashram, completely engaged in the worship of Vasudeva, the Supreme Lord. Important point here we can understand. This is how important in Vedic culture it is, this element of Vanaprast life, leaving, that King Nabi had the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son. That's the actual goal of all the austerities and all the practices we do. Everything is to see Krishna. Vedaishta Shavirahameva Vedyo Vedanta Krid Vedavadeva Chaham. Yet we're seeing that King Nabi began to raise him carefully. After that, he entrusted the ruling power to him, and retiring from family life, lived at Badrik Ashram, completely engaged in the worship of Vasudeva. So he left his Supreme Lord's son to go to Badrik Ashram and perform austerities. So, I mean, it's a point we can kind of, look at ourselves and, well, I'm with devotees, but we're seeing that Nabi was with the Supreme Lord himself and left. Yes, Prabhu.
In that kind of circumstance, is this kind of like what if like just missing the point in a sense? It's like he had God as his own son.
No, he's not missing the point. He is to the point of setting an example for others. He's a perfect Vaishnava. That even if God's my son, and that's throughout the Vedic understanding, even if Krishna is involved. Krishna killed his own son. People don't know that. But Narakasura was Krishna's son. Narakasura was the son of Lord Braha in the earth. He became corrupted by the association of demoniac personalities, and then Krishna took him out. Krishna defends his own devotee, yes.
I just want to point out also it says that he began to raise him very carefully. Another important point, a lot of times people have children that are not supreme, and they don't very carefully raise them.
Yes, because they are the Supreme Lord. That's anyways, that's just an interesting point I found right there. To follow social customs, Lord Rishabdev for a while became a student in the Gurukul, and after returning, he followed the orders of his guru and accepted a wife named Jayanti, who had been given to him by the king of heaven, Indra. He begot 100 sons in the womb of Jayanti. Of these 100 sons, the eldest was known as Bharata. Since the reign of Maharaj Bharata, this planet has been called Bharatavarsh. Rishabdev's other sons were headed by Kushavarta, Ilavarta, Brahmavarta, Malayu, Ketu, Bhadrasena, Indrasprik, Vidarbha, and Kikata. There were also other sons named Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabhuda, Pipalanya, Avihotra, Dumala, Chamsha, and Karnabhajan. Anybody know who those guys are? Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabhuda, Pipalayana, Avihotra, Durmila, Chamsa, and Karabhajana. They come up later in the Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. They're known as the Navayogendras. Yep, the Navayogendras, a huge part of the 11th canto, who are giving instruction to Maharaj Nini. And these 9 sons of Rishabdev, they remained brahmachari, sannyas, and then they became the Navayogendras. Instead of ruling the kingdom, these 9 became mendicant preachers of Krishna consciousness, following the religious precepts of the Bhagavatam. Their characteristics and activities are described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam during the talks between Vasudeva and Narada at Kurukshetra. Teach the general populace, King Rishabdev performed many sacrifices and taught his sons how to rule the citizens. FYI, I didn't know that Prabhupada mentioned. I didn't read that till just now. That Prabhupada mentioned it. But I just know that the 9 sons of Rishabdev. Yeah, we get this. So we'll go to text 1. It's in prose, so I'll read it. We'll do the word-for-word translation purport. Shri Shuka Uvacha Ataha Tam Utpatyaiva Bivya Jyamana Bhagava Lakshanam Samyapashama Vairagyaishvarya Maha Vibhutibir Anudinam Edha Ma Nanu Bhavam Prakritaya Praja Brahmana Devatash Chavani Kala Samavanayititaram Jagriduhu. Shri Shuka Vacha. Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Attaha, thus, after the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared, Tam, him, Utpatya, from the beginning of his appearance, Eva, even, Abhivyajamana, directly manifested, Bhagavat Lakshanam, possessing the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Samya, equal to everyone, Upashama,
Upashama,
completely peaceful,
completely peaceful,
in control of the senses and mind.
in control of the senses and mind.
Vairagya,
Vairagya,
renunciation.
renunciation.
Aishwarya,
Aishwarya,
opulences.
opulences.
Mahavibhutibihi,
Mahavibhuti,
with great attributes.
great attributes.
Anudinam, day after day. Edhamana,
Yamana,
increasing. Anubhavam,
Anubhavam,
his power. Prakritaya,
Prakritaya,
the ministers.
business.
Prajaha,
Prajaha,
the citizens.
citizens.
Brahmanaha,
Brahmana,
the learned scholars in full knowledge of Brahman.
scholars, Brahmana,
Devataha, the demigods. Chap, and Avanitala, the surface of the globe. Samavanaya, to rule. Atitaram, greatly. Jagriduhu, desired. Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, as soon as the Lord, who was born as the son of Maharaj Nabi, as soon as the Lord was born as the son of Maharaj Nabi, he manifested symptoms of the Supreme Lord, such as marks on the bottom of his feet, the flag, thunderbolt, etc. This son was equal to everyone and very peaceful. He could control his senses and his mind, and possessing all opulence, he did not hanker for material enjoyment. Endowed with all these attributes, the son of Maharaj Nabi became more powerful day after day. Due to this, the citizens, learned brahmanas, demigods, and ministers wanted Rishabdev to be appointed the ruler of the earth. Purport. I totally prepared for the wrong verse today. In these days, cheap incarnations, in these days of cheap incarnations, it is very interesting to note the bodily symptoms found in an incarnation. From the very beginning of his birth, it was observed that Rishabdev's feet were marked with transcendental signs, a flag, thunderbolt, lotus flower, etc. In addition to this, as the Lord began to grow, he became very prominent. He was equal to everyone. He did not favor one person and neglect another. An incarnation of God must have 6 opulences: wealth, strength, knowledge, beauty, fame, and renunciation. It is said that although Rishabdev was endowed with all opulences, he was not at all attached to material enjoyment. He was self-controlled and therefore liked by everyone. Due to his super excellent qualities, everyone wanted him to rule the earth. An incarnation of God has to be accepted by experienced people and by the symptoms described in the Shastras. An incarnation is not accepted simply by adulation of foolish people. Adulation of foolish people. So somehow I prepared for verse 3. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, it's all right. I'm always prepared. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadari Nirvishesha Shandivari Paschita Deshatadri Namaste Jivananda Hridaya Savadachari Prabhupada Bhalavaya Singha Sudhavani Agyara Dhantakama Pashtita Padita. So it's a unique element of Sanatana Dharma that the Supreme Personality of Godhead takes appearances in this world. Krishna explains, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanama dharmasya tadatmajam shajam yaham paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya tridiskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious principles and a prominent rise in irreligion, O Sayana Bharat, at that time I descend myself to annihilate the miscreants and to protect the sadhus, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion. I invent myself millennium after millennium. So this is the nature of the appearance of the Lord. So there's another verse after that says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tvaktva deham pranarjanma naitima meti sorjuna. These are verses from the Bhagavad Gita, 4, 6, 7, and 8. Or 6, 7, and 9. These verses are expressing Krishna's appearance. So we're understanding the reason for Krishna's appearance. He says, Paritranaya sadhanam, to protect the sadhus, and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion. He appears. And then there's a shloka in which says that whoever understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, janma karma cha me divyam, my divyam, they're transcendental. My janma, my karma, my birth and activities are transcendental. Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tatvata, tvaktva deham punarjanma, naiti mameti sorjana, tvaktva deham punarjanma. No more birth for such a person who understands Krishna's appearance and activities. Rather, he returns to my supreme abode. And out of all the verses that Srila Prabhupada quoted in classes and in purports, that's the number one quoted verse of Srila Prabhupada. Janma karma cha me divam evam yo veti tatvata tvaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjana. And so once Srila Prabhupada was sitting with a group of disciples, and Srila Prabhupada asked, what is the reason for Krishna's appearance? And everybody said, Paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya traduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavam yuge yuge. They all said, to annihilate the miscreants and to deliver the pious, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion. I had meant myself millennium after millennium. Srila Prabhupada said, no, this is not the reason for Krishna's appearance. Because Krishna doesn't have to personally appear to annihilate the demons. He can annihilate the demons with a heart attack. He can annihilate the demons with a bolt of lightning. He can annihilate the demons with a war. Krishna can annihilate the demons. He can empower a devotee to annihilate the demons. To deliver the sadhus. Well, Krishna is delivering us, and he's not personally here in incarnation form. The deity is here. Artra Vigraha. But still, we're being delivered. We can be delivered by Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's empowered representative. So Krishna is not delivering necessarily. He doesn't have to be here for that part. Dharma samsta panartaya. Krishna is coming to reestablish Dharma. But does Krishna have to come reestablish Dharma, or can another empowered personality reestablish Dharma? Just look how Shankaracharya was so empowered. He completely banished Buddhism from India in 33 years. He banished it. It's amazing to think that India was a Buddhist country for longer than the United States existed. India was a Buddhist country. It became a complete Buddhist country. And then Shankaracharya appeared and removed it, and then established this Sharirak Bhashya, this Mayavadi philosophy on the basis of his commentary of Vedanta Sutra. And he reestablished the Vedas. And then Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya appeared, and then they established Vaishnava philosophy. And they basically really diminished the influence of Shankaracharya. Then later on, of course, Lord Chaitanya appeared, presenting the full Vedic philosophy, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. So Krishna is not appearing for any of those things. He's saying that, but actually Srila Prabhupada was asking the devotees this, and one devotee finally said, to give pleasure to his devotees, and Prabhupada said, you will not take birth again. You have understood the real reason for Krishna's appearance and activities. Krishna is appearing to give pleasure to the devotees, to give us an opportunity to relish his pastimes and to relish the sweetness of his activities. And it is in relishing Krishna's activities that we develop so much spiritual happiness, spiritual advancement. So in that way, when understanding that, we can understand and we can go back to Godhead. So with that being said, Lord Rishabdev is here, and Prabhupada's making a note that in these days of cheap incarnations, it's very interesting to note the bodily symptoms. So Krishna's incarnations are understood from the Shastra. We don't have to make up an incarnation. They're understood from the Shastra. We've had many people come here and say they're God, and one guy actually came here and he had a trash can on his head, and he was telling me, I'm Vasudev. He somehow knew the name Vasudev. He said, don't touch me, I'm Vasudev. He was all the way back here. He said, don't touch me, I'm Vasudev. And then Me and Lalita had to throw him out. And I actually dragged him out. And then another devotee saw me dragging him out, and he was kind of violent. And another devotee came up and was trying to say, "Get out of here." You know. So yeah, he was Vasudev with a trash can on his head. So there's so many cheap incarnations. There's one girl at the campus who came up to us. She's very friendly at the Harinam. She said, "I am actually Bhagavan." She's like a very pretty South Indian girl. And she started saying this to Kirtan Yagya. "I am Bhagavan." She said, "Oh, you are God?" He said, "I am Kirtan Yagya." He said, "I am so fortunate to see God today." She said, "Oh, we're all God." He said, "There's so many gods." And he said, she was smiling. She really loved the kirtan. He said, "We are singing about you." Kirtan Yagya was really trolling her. And then he said, "Will you take a book?" She said, "I have no money." He goes, "Oh, you are a poor God. How can you be God if you have no money? What kind of God are you? Are you poor God?" She got very sad. And now every time she sees us, she looks at us in shame. It really embarrassed her. So in this way, people are so illusioned. They're so unsure of what actually is going on. But it's unique in the Vedic Shastras that the Lord, he appears in this world to fulfill its purpose. And so although there's this element of paritranaya saranam vinashaya triduskritam dharma samstapanartaya, these three things he's doing about delivering the sadhus, annihilating the miscreants, and establishing dharma, the real thing is that he's giving us an opportunity to think of him and to develop love for him and to understand his pastimes. Furthermore, unless we understand the purpose of the world, we can't understand how to play the game of life properly. And according to the Vedic understanding, what is the purpose of the world? Yes, that's one purpose, but there's another purpose too.
Usually, conditions souls an opportunity to enjoy their senses.
Exactly, to fulfill desires. The world exists for two reasons. One is to fulfill desires, and one is to rectify ourselves. So, therefore, Krishna has to, program some suffering in the world so that we can realize that this is not our home. And we have to experience that. And Krishna occasionally has to come down into the world to continuously put us on the path of righteousness. And so there's a point in this verse where it's saying, due to this, the citizens, learned Brahmins, demigods, and ministers. Okay, what was I saying? I'm getting confused with so we read so much. But there's a point in this introduction where it says that Rishabdev, he didn't, see enemies and friends. All the citizens loved him. Oh yeah, right here. The sun was equal to everyone, very peaceful. So why is the Lord equal to everyone? And that's a symptom of an advanced spiritual personality. It's a symptom, right? That's the number one symptom of a learned person. We can say, "Oh, I know so many shlokas. I know so much puja activities. I know so many mantras and yagyas, and I've done so many pious activities. And I have the best shaved head and best tilak. And I'm a card-carrying ISKCON devotee." We can understand all of those things, but what's the actual symptom of a learned person?
He sees everyone as spiritual.
Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmane Gavihastini, Shuni Chaiva Sapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Krishna explains that a true Pandit is a man who can see with equal vision a Brahmana, an elephant, a cow, a dog, and a dog eater. Outcast with an equal eye. That's a genuinely advanced personality. So why is it that Krishna and Krishna's associates, the advanced devotees of the Lord, have this type of vision? And so the question can be asked, and it is asked in the Bhagavatam, and it's explained in the Bhagavatam, why is it that if Krishna is neutral and Krishna is equal to all, Krishna obviously favors the demigods, Indriyayi Vakilam Lokam, and destroys the demons? So when this question is asked, especially it's asked in the 7th canto, chapter 1, it's described very nicely how this is happening. Krishna's mercy is available for everybody. And this world is Krishna's mercy. This world is actually a manifestation of Krishna's mercy. We may not be able to see like that, but actually Prabhupada says that in the verse, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Vasudevam Sarvamiti means after many, many births and deaths, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan, one who actually is a real person in knowledge. Mother somebody quoted this verse last night. One who's a person in actual knowledge, he surrenders unto Krishna. Why? Because he understands Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Everything is Krishna's mercy. Everything is Krishna. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, in the beginning, a spiritual personality has a tendency toward impersonalism. But as they advance in their spiritual practices, they come to realize that there's nothing in this world but the mercy of Krishna. And so the reason this world is a manifestation of Krishna's mercy is because the living entities have a desire to fulfill. We come to this material world to fulfill desires. And Krishna is manifesting this world mercifully so that we can fulfill those desires. It's not some kind of evil thing. We can say, oh, this is some sadistic hell we've been put into. But actually, the hell is because we have chosen to be here by our own desire. And it's okay to fulfill desires. But the rule is that you can fulfill your desires without hurting anybody else. But that's not how we do, because we came here because we're selfish. So we hurt all kinds of other people and we get a mix of good and bad karma. And ultimately, none of these desires ultimately fulfill us. Only Krishna fulfills us. Only that relationship with Krishna is going to fulfill us. So in this way, the living entity travels birth and death, birth and death. Purusha prakriti stohi bhankte prakriti jan gunan karnam gunasangosat sarasad yoni janmashu. Is that the living entities are enjoying bhankte prakriti jan gunan. They're enjoying this material nature which is born of the modes. Why? Karnam gunasangosat, because they're associating with that mode. Therefore, they're taking birth in both sat and asat, both good and bad wombs. Karnam gunasangosat sarasad yoni janmu, sarasad yoni janmashu, taking birth in various species of life. So we don't want to take birth. We don't want to go through these various species of life. So Krishna, his mercy is available for everybody. This whole world is his mercy. But how are we receiving it? How are we receiving the mercy? So the reason that Krishna favors the devotees and punishes the demigods, why is it that Krishna is always favoring Indra and punishing the demons? Because Krishna is simply reciprocating, yes. Also fulfilling the desire of the world, helping the world. Because that's the purpose of the world, is to create a God-conscious atmosphere so living entities can fulfill desires and go back to Godhead. And the demons are opposed to that purpose. They're opposed to the purpose of God. And so in a simple way, we can understand that demoniac nature just simply means to be opposed to the purpose of God, God's plan, Krishna's plan for the world. Krishna's plan for the world is that all living entities become peaceful by practicing bhakti yoga. Prabhupada Maharaj says that in this canto. The demons want to fulfill desires without this God element. And in fact, not only do they want to fulfill desires without this God element, they want to oppose the Krishna factor, the Krishna element in everything. So therefore, Krishna is favoring the demigods because the demigods are favorable for the purpose of this world. The demigods are creating an atmosphere by which the living entities can fulfill their desires and develop piety and go back to Godhead. And that's the nature of every ruler, every parent, every person in a position of power. We'll hear Lord Rishabdev say later that you shouldn't become a parent, you shouldn't become a king, you shouldn't become a worshipable demigod, you shouldn't become a spiritual master unless you're able to deliver your dependents to the spiritual world. So if you can't deliver yourself, don't have kids. That's the message of the Krishna consciousness movement. Don't become a guru. Don't become a demigod. Don't become a leader. We have to be able to deliver ourselves from the path of birth and death by taking Krishna's mercy. So all of the leaders in society whom are pious, whom are considered devatas, the higher leaders all the way up to Brahma, they're all working in accordance with the law of Krishna by which living entities can develop Krishna consciousness and go back to Godhead. The demons are opposed to that. and therefore they're continuously getting punished by the laws of material nature and by Krishna himself. But when Krishna appears personally, what does he do to the demons? He annihilates them, but also what do they get? They get liberated. So in that sense, there's no difference between the demons and the devotees. They're getting the same thing in a sense. We hear that actually. Kamsa, he got liberated. They all got liberated, Haribol. They all got liberated. We had one guy once, we were discussing this verse. Aho baki amstana kalakutam jagam shaya paya rapi sabile begatim datritam tananyam kamvadayalam sharanam brajama, which is a very powerful verse. Even when Shukadev Goswami heard this verse, he became a devotee. And when Pudrik Vidyaniti heard this verse, he fell off the dais, and Gadadhar Pandit accepted him as his spiritual master. So, with that being said, this verse is describing the mercy of Krishna. Who can I take shelter of more merciful than he who delivered the she-demon, Putana, who came with poison on her breast to kill the Lord? What did she get? She got the position of a nurse in the spiritual world. Simply by trying to kill Krishna, she got the position of, this is how merciful Krishna is, but yet Krishna sucked the life out of her. So Krishna is doing all these wonderful things for the demons and for the devotees. But because the demons are not fulfilling the purpose of the world, they have to be annihilated. But when they're annihilated by Krishna, they get the same benefit because Krishna is absolute. Therefore, we see that Vishnu has the chakra and the gada for the demons and the lotus and the conch for the devotees. But on the ultimate sense, because Krishna is absolute, there's no difference between the gada and the lotus. So therefore, an advanced spiritual personality is neutral to everybody. He becomes neutral toward everybody. He doesn't judge people based on bodily appearance. However, he makes distinctions based on what is favorable for fulfilling the Lord's purpose. And a devotee is trying to fulfill the same purpose of the Lord. Actually, we're all fulfilling the same purpose of the Lord. We're in the same group of same category of mission as the Lord. The Lord's mission is Paritranaya Saranam Vinashaya Tridiskritam Dharma Samstapanartaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. Lord Chaitanya also had the same mission on the external level. Lord Chaitanya was going to deliver the pious by chanting Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya was going to destroy the demons by chanting Hare Krishna. So in this age, Krishna doesn't come to kill the demons like Krishna was doing in his previous incarnations. Krishna comes to deliver them or to kill the demoniac mentality in them by the power of the holy name. And we see that. We see people, they'll come with demoniac mentality. Although some people, even though the holy name is there, they're really good demons fighting hard. But they come and they begin to chant Hare Krishna, and the demoniac mentality is killed within them. You see how Prabhupada did like that. So many people, so selfish. You know, the hippie consciousness is very selfish. But Prabhupada came, chant Hare Krishna, take prasad, and all of a sudden, now I am no longer demoniac. The holy name is an incarnation of Krishna, and it's actually delivering fallen and conditioned souls. So the devotees are also in the same category. They are delivering the pious by giving them the holy name, and they're defeating the demons by giving them the holy name and prasadam. And they're reestablishing the real dharma, which is sarvadharman prityaja. So in this way, devotees are in that same mission of Krishna. And so they have to see people equally, but they have to treat people different based on what's favorable for the mission of the Lord. So that's why we can understand this verse of how do we see a dog, brahmana, dog eater, cow, and elephant with equal vision. Yet we also don't treat a dog and an elephant and a cow eater and a brahmana the same. So we treat them different, but we see them the same. We treat them based on what's favorable for our mission. Therefore, an advanced devotee, someone who's no longer a neophyte, he distinguishes between the innocent the devotees of the Lord himself, and the envious, the atheistic. What does he do with the atheistic?
Avoid them.
He avoids them. What does he do with the innocent?
Preaches to
Help
others.
them.
Shows them mercy. What does he do with the devotees?
Befriends them.
And what does he do with the Lord?
Worship.
Yeah. So that's a symptom of a Madhya Adhikari. He makes these distinctions, yet on the ultimate sense of things, he sees them with equal vision. So therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says time and time again that one should give up this concept of friend and enemy. Friend and enemy, friend and enemy, friend and enemy. One should give up this concept. And we're seeing that in Rishabdev, this very first. The sun was equal to everyone and very peaceful. We also become peaceful in that state. That's a symptom of a person who is a Brahmabhuta. Brahmabhuta prasanatma, nasochati nakangshati, samasarveshu bhuteshu. Is actually a prerequisite for bhakti. First prerequisite for bhakti, Brahmabhuta prasanatma. That someone is a Brahmabhuta, he's realized I'm not this body. This real bhakti starts when you realize you're not this body. So Brahmabhuta, you've realized I'm not this body. Prasanatma. Your atma, your soul becomes prasan. You become actually joyful because you're prasanatma. Nasochti nakangshati. You're no longer desiring. You're no longer lamenting, hankering. This is a symptom of conditioning. I want this, I want this, I want this. I don't want that. I lost that. I lost that. I lost that. I cannot say that I am on this platform. I don't know about you, Prabhus. But I cannot say I do not desire nor hanker. In fact, it's all every moment, that's all there is. So and then Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu. He sees all living entities equally. Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu. He sees all living entities equally. And in that state, Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So it's in that state of being that we're attaining pure devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, we should give up this concept of friends and enemies and simply try to make everybody a devotee. Try to help them in their Krishna consciousness. Try to encourage all of those around us in Krishna consciousness. That is the real, genuine state of being of a devotee. Let me encourage everybody in Krishna consciousness. And then you're always happy. And if they're not able to be encouraged by my, speaking with them or my giving them a book, or even me giving them prasadam, but if they don't want that, then simply let me wish them well and pray for them. And in that way, we can actually maintain wonderful relationships and be detached and be Krishna conscious. So the Lord is like that, and the Lord's devotees are also like that. And then, of course, this element, he could control his senses and his mind. Devotees also need to be able to control their senses and control their mind. Why? Because if we can't control our senses, then we can't realize we're not this body. Because the senses are going to make us understand we're this body. And the mind. The mind should be fixed on Krishna. So it is the appearance of Gadadhar Pandit. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. Oh, Prabhupada says here, he did not favor one person and neglect another. Sometimes we see like that too, huh? Especially parents, who really favor their own children and neglect all of their children. Which is, Prabhupada says, in one sense, it's natural. Have some special affection for your child. That's why Krishna has special affection for devotees. He equals everybody, but to the devotee, he has special affection. But actually, we shouldn't feel, I love this person more. I don't love this person. When I was first coming to the temple, I was meeting all the devotees, I met Keshava Prabhu. I didn't know Keshava Prabhu was my Guru Maharaj's son. I later found out, Keshava is my Guru Maharaj's son. And at the Sunday feast, I sat down next to my Gurudev, and this is like first or second time I met my Gurudev. Then I said, I should let your son sit here. And I said, Keshava, you can sit here. Keshava looked at me kind of weird. My Gurudev said, no, you sit here. And he said, Do you think that because we have some similar DNA that I have any more affection for him than I do you? This is all illusion. He said it with so much like conviction that I was like shocked. And I mean, he really is like that. And he really does believe that at the core of his heart, that this is all just bodily relationship. Because he came out of my body, that means that he has some higher. Actually, I want you to sit here because I need to preach to you. I want to make you a devotee. So in that way, someone who's elevating themselves kind of beyond this bodily conception of life, beyond this low consciousness of life. Yes, Prabhu.
What you're speaking about reminds me of a book that was printed in print. I think it's out of print now, called The Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. Remember that? Have you ever read that book?
I've heard of that book.
Yeah. It's a small book, but it's in the 7th canto. You know, Prahlad Maharaj is a perfect example of the.
Yeah, he spoke very much about this, no friends and enemies. That's his whole, he really spoke on this level that we should not have friends and we should not have enemies. We should actually see everybody as a servant of God. And so if you see everybody as a servant of God, and we think, how can I help this person? What's the best thing I can do? Our life becomes clear. Our mission becomes clear. People are always bewildered by the mode of passion as to not knowing what to do and what not to do. That's how the modes affect us. When someone is clearly situated in this sense of now I'm in goodness or now I'm understanding my spiritual position, it becomes very simple what to do and what not to do. We accept what's favorable, we reject what's unfavorable for Krishna service. We love people based on that premise of how am I going to elevate them, and we serve them. But really the challenge is we can understand that thing theoretically. The challenge is envy. Enviousness of fellow devotees. We have envy of fellow devotees, and therefore we don't want them to advance as much. Or we're upset because we're not getting as much mercy or this or that. And so in that way, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, what reason in the world would you ever have to speak nasty or speak something mean to a devotee? I really can't think of any reason at all.
If someone said, I'm going to kill them unless you tell them that you're a bad person.
I can't think of any reason at all. So, yes.
I think if your false ego is in, you like defensive, then you might say something.
Yeah, out of false ego. That's the point, is that it's out of false ego. You'll say this or that or so many things. You may, in correcting someone, you may chastise someone once in a while. That's still, it's hot water. You don't want to mess around with that too much. But generally, why would you want to discourage someone from devotional service? That's just big. It's actually, I was talking to a devotee just recently. You know, that's worse than hurting their body, actually. It's well worse. It's ultimate violence to run someone away from a temple. So, and circling it back around to this equal vision, we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. We're going to speak about Gadadhar Pandit a little bit. So Gadadhar Pandit, in terms of tattva, is the incarnation of the Shakti tattva. So Shakti tattva is all of the feminine energies of the Lord, Radharani being the primary Shakti tattva. There's also Lakshmi Devi, Sita, all of the incarnations of Shakti. And so Gadadhar Pandit is an incarnation of Shakti tattva, and it's described actually that he's a combined incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Saki. But he's missing the mood, actually, of Srimati Radharani, the conjugal mood. He's actually friends with Lord Chaitanya. And he was very dear friends with Lord Chaitanya. As a child, it was described Lord Chaitanya would sometimes have tantrums. And the only person who was really able to calm him down was Gadadhar Pandit. And so Gadadhar Pandit, he was very dear to the Lord, and he was also of the Panchatattva. He's the only Nishtik Brahmachari. He's the only lifelong Brahmachari. He remained Brahmachari his whole life. Lord Chaitanya was married twice. Of course, Advaita Acharya was married to Sita Devi. Nityananda Prabhu had 2 wives. So Gadadhar Pandit, he was totally, or Srivas was married to Madhavi. But Gadadhar Pandit was unmarried. And so he was really just devoted to Lord Chaitanya. And there's a beautiful pastime with him, which I tell a lot, in which his guru, who was Pundarik Vidyaniti, which Lord Chaitanya, very dear devotee of Lord Chaitanya, he was very opulent. He was actually a very opulent person. He had oil in his hair and perfumes and colognes and rings and kinds of beautiful things. And so Lord Chaitanya's childhood friend Mukunda Datta took Gadadhar Pandit to see Pundarik Vidyanidhi. This is a great devotee. Gadadhar Pandit thought, this is not a devotee. He was sitting on a dais getting fanned and chewing betel nut. And Mukunda Datta said, hold my bead bag. Aho bakiyam stanakala tukam jigam shayapayarapya sadbi lebegatim datritam tatonya kamva dayalam sharanam rajima. And then upon hearing this verse about the mercy of Krishna, Pundarik Vidyanidhi fell off the dais and went into a trance for many, many hours. And Gadadhar Pandit realized, I made an offense to this devotee. And the lesson was actually, he was judging this person based on these external things, but internally this person was a really pure devotee of the Lord. And so Gadadhar Pandit took initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And so then Gadadhar Pandit, of course, went with Lord Chaitanya to Puri. And there Lord Gadadhar Pandit took Dham Sannyas. What is Dham Sannyas? He took Dham Sannyas. He took a vow that he would never leave Jagannath Puri. And in our ISKCON, I think Barshan Maharaj, he's actually like a Dham Sannyas. He never leaves New Vrindavan. So there was another devotee that Prabhupada told him never to leave the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and he never did. You know that devotee? What was his name?
Of course, there's twins.
Oh, of course, Janani Vas. That's in Mayapur, but also there's another one in Vrindavan too. Janani Vas, and Pankaj Gandri. Of course, Pankaj Gandri never left, but Janani Vas now travels for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness. Keep raising money for the TOVP. They also are like that. So Gadadhar Pandit, he was always in Puri. And at one point when Lord Chaitanya, who was sannyasi of the traveling type, Goshti Nandi, he was leaving. And there's a very emotional scene where Gadadhar Pandit is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chases Lord Chaitanya and starts begging him not to go. I'm going to come with you. And Lord Chaitanya says, no, you can't come with you. Take a Dham Sannyas. I don't care about the sannyas. I want to come with you. Lord Chaitanya convinced him, and finally he passed out and Lord Chaitanya left. And actually, some people were criticized Lord Chaitanya as being kind of cruel. Of course, this is the pastime of Krishna and Radha, right? So Gadadhar Pandit, he lived and he was very sincere servant of the Tota Gopinath deity. And Tota Gopinath deity is very special because it's said that Lord Chaitanya walked into that deity upon his disappearance. At 48 years old, Lord Chaitanya entered into the Tota Gopinath deity. And that deity was served very lovingly by Gadadhar Pandit his whole life, staying in Puri. At a certain point, there's some pastime kind of slipped my mind now, where Gadadhar Pandit was getting too old to garland the deity. I have to look that up. You should all look it up. Some amazing thing happened. The deity did something.
Sat down. Yeah. So
Oh yeah, the deity sat down. Yeah, that's it. So
this is the only sitting down.
the deity wasn't sitting, and Gadadhar Pandit was too old to garland the deity. And so the deity sat down so that Gadadhar Pandit can continue to serve him. So this is the amazing glories of Gadadhar Pandit. There's also one kind of pastime with Vallabhacharya I really like. I really appreciate it because it just seems like classic devotee pastime. Vallabhacharya was writing these And it's also this humor of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there's this personalism of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Gadadhar Pandit was, Vallabhacharya was writing these commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, and he kept trying to like read them to the devotees, and the devotees were like, no. He went to Lord Chaitanya, and he said, I have written commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam that are better than those of Sridhar Swami. Lord Chaitanya said, you are a prostitute. Anybody who thinks they can go above or past the previous acharyas is like a prostitute. And so Lord Chaitanya chastised Vallabhacharya. But at one point, Vallabhacharya was really like just desperate to read his commentaries to a devotee, so he cornered Gadadhar Pandit. He said, and Gadadhar Pandit was like, I hope they don't see me with this, hearing this, or else my reputation is going to be ruined. And so it's funny because devotees can think like that. Sometimes they think, oh, we don't care about these things. In one sense, we don't. In another sense, we do, because we want to be in good favor with the devotees. So I always appreciate that pastime with Gadadhar Pandit, who's very dear to the Lord. And actually, Mother Sachi used to always want Gadadhar Pandit around to nullify and to calm down the Lord. He was the only one who could really calm down the Lord. Sometimes the Lord would throw these mega tantrums and just break everything in the house and then powderize it. He would actually pulverize the pieces of it. So Lord Chaitanya was a little wild sometimes. Yeah. So we'll stop here if there's any questions or comments.
We visit that temple a lot. Well, every time we go to Jagannath Puri. And so we wanted to see the crack in the leg. They said there was like a gold line in Tota Gopinath's leg. And so then we gave some significant rupees, thinking we were going to see the leg, and communicated that, but there's a lack of communication there. So we're all ready to see it, but they just took the donation and we never saw the leg.
Oh, man.
But then we gave a donation for prasadam, and we said, we want to serve the prasadam. And they're like, yes, yes. And so then we go to serve the prasadam, and they threw us out of the kitchen. They didn't want to have us, because I guess being double whammy, a woman and Western, to serve prasadam. So then they kept saying, no, you sit. We said, no, we'll sit. No, you sit. So.
Well, you gave donation at least.
Yeah. And when you're talking about why Krishna seems like he favors a devotee, you might have said this after I left, but in Bhagavad Gita, of course, Krishna says, I favor no one, I envy no one, I'm equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, and I'm also a friend to him.
Yeah.
So we see that, just like with a father, the examples there, the father appreciates and loves all the children in the community, but if there's an emergency, he'll take his kid, he'll go for his kid. So Krishna is equal to everyone, but because also the demigods and devotees, they render service to Krishna, and then Krishna is obliged to.
They're in a position in which that mercy is favorable.
Yeah.
Especially because I mentioned the point that they're fulfilling the purpose of the world. So Krishna's going to favor them because that their will is not different from Krishna's will. That loving reciprocation is there. Any other points? Yes.
We gotta keep it going here.
But when you were talking about, why does Krishna come himself? And that reminded me of this great analogy. I'm sure you've heard it, but where, a king is walking by this lake or whatever, and then his son, the prince, falls into the lake and he starts drowning. And now the king has all his men around him. Any one of them could jump in and save his son, but the king jumps in and saves his son himself. And why does he do that? Because he loves his son. He wants to help it. So even though he had the control to tell it, hey, you go save him, he wanted to do it himself.
Nice. Yeah, it's true. That's the famous verse in the Lord. Vishnu says to Durvas Muni that the devotees are in my heart, and I'm in the heart of the devotees. I know nothing but my devotees, and they know nothing but me. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole element. And so that's why, I was speaking last night with my friend Gregory. He was asking such nice questions. He was, naturally with always some confusion about, we worship the guru and we, do this guru puja every day to Srila Prabhupada. And, why don't we just worship Krishna? So, actually, The guru is carrying Krishna. And it's very difficult. I said, actually, anybody can get up on the altar and wave some incense at the deity. Okay, I'm full of love and devotion. You can make yourself look like you're full of more love and devotion than you actually have. You can say all the mantras and do all the mudras, and you can look really cool. But I mean, the real thing is how are you interacting with others? That quality should go up. The quality of interaction should go up. The quality of effect on people, and especially making devotees and preaching and doing that should increase. That should be the real judge. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there's really two principles to the religion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Principle number one, develop great taste and enthusiasm to chant the holy name. That's a sign of advancement. Great taste and enthusiasm to chant the holy name. Principle number two, develop immense compassion for other souls. So those things are the real elements. So, we can say, oh, this or that, but the real thing is let me have some compassion, encourage other devotees and encourage non-devotees to all the same to become close to Krishna, and let me develop taste for chanting. So, yeah, we worship the Guru, we worship all the Vaishnavas, we serve all the Vaishnavas because they're carrying Krishna. That's the real way we serve Krishna. They're carrying him. And Krishna is pleased by that more than because they're his children. I told him, Prabhupada gives the example, you give the rich man, what can we give Elon Musk? Here, Elon, here's $100 donation. Who doesn't do anything? When you give the love, you go give his son, his many 13 or 14 children, you give them Prabhupada said a 10-cent lozenge. It's Reshwar Prabhu's Everest tape. You give him a 10-cent lozenge, the man will become pleased. So we serve the devotees, then Krishna is pleased.
Well, then there's that famous story in the Bible of the widow's mite, right? Where all these people are coming to the church, all these wealthy people, and they're donating, gems and jewels and piles of gold and all this. And then this poor widow comes and she puts in 1 penny into the donation box. And then I think, was it Jesus that was telling this story, or was it someone else? Anyway, and they said that she gave more, right? Because all those rich people, they had so many piles of gold, so many gemstones, so many necklaces, but she gave all she had.
Yeah, there's a story of Prabhupada like that too, of course,
Yeah.
where one rich man gave Prabhupada a $10,000 donation. But said, thank you very much. And continued on his business. And then this little girl got one little piece of maha from the altar, and she ran through the crowd and fought the crowd and moved in Saraswati. And she gave Prabhupada that. And Prabhupada was so happy, and he was rubbing her head. And he was, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And the rich man asked Prabhupada, why are you being so nice, blessing her, but not me? And Prabhupada said, she gave everything she had. You have so much money. You can give so much more.
And also maybe the rich man would have felt weird if he rubbed his head.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, we like that. Prabhupada says it's natural. But there are devotees who did give everything they have. We see today, look at, Jayapataka Swami. Obviously, they're getting that reciprocation. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada ki.